My dad still works as a contractor for the company that I currently work for. I would technically be his boss in those situations.
That sounds pretty hard to deal with the ambiguousness that's built into your day to day. Does
Yeah.
it eat at you? What do you do to cope with that?
Oh, I smoke a lot of weed.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the way to manage.
Life is a journey, yours starts here. If you're feeling lost, then have no fear. There's always a seat at the tavern, as the legend goes, where the fire's warm and the ale flows cold. You can share your story, whether you're young or old. Tell tales of your glories or sorrows. If things are going great or you're down on your luck, spent too much of the same and you're feeling stuck, share what you know on Gamers Growing Up. GGUP. GGUP. GGUP.
Welcome back to GG Up, the show where we hang out with our guests and their favorite video game. We explore the main quests of life, finding purpose, building success, and spreading love. This week, we're joined by my friend Alex. Alex, thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks. It's good to be here under the twinkling lights, under the sea.
I agree. And if you could introduce yourself a little bit, if you're comfortable sharing your age, where you're from, what you do for work, and then also tell us what game you picked for us to be playing today and what it means to you.
My name's Alex, and I'm 27 and a project manager. And I picked Roblox because I'm not super big on current gaming. I don't do a whole lot of like multiplayer stuff. Actually, I don't even do a whole lot of like single player stuff mostly these days, but I thought this was like a cool social hangout from when I used to play games as a kid.
Nice little throwback to the gaming days of old. Did you used to play a lot of Roblox growing up?
Yeah, I was one of those kids that like played like 24/7 for like 3 years straight. Surprisingly, I didn't get good at any of these games though. Like I mostly would play like the tycoon games where you just make a bunch of money for like hours on end, and it would take 20 hours to get the max stacks in the game and then get all the cool stuff. I think the game changed a little bit these days. I think it's a little more possibly microtransaction heavy
Oh, yeah,
from
it's been
the
steeping in.
yeah, I saw in like another game. I was playing Squid Game earlier just to refamiliarize myself with this, and like you could literally just walk up to a wall and buy stuff you needed for like the game. Like you just do in-game purchase like right there at the counter and get the tool you need for the job, which I thought was different.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's almost like eating at the essence of what like gaming with others is. Now it's no longer just that guy really plays a lot of the game or is really good at the game or knows the cheat codes. Now there's this other path of, oh, if you're a kid, maybe his parents have more money, and it's almost like a little bit of inequality seeping its way into the game.
I don't even think it's necessarily like kids. Look at me, I'm 27. I have a credit card. I could be doing this. I could be out playing all these kids if it just came down to money. But yeah, you're right.
That is
Uh,
true. Microtransactions are so much more effective at tempting you that I feel like they seem like they would be. I know that I've spent my fair share of microtransactions.
I try to stay away from them. I had a Builders Club. I don't know if they still do that. It was like this thing where you would get like a couple of Robux a day and some other perks. I had that for 1 year as a kid. It was awesome. I saved up a bunch of Robux like every day. Like this game used to, I don't know how much it has changed necessarily, but it used to be weird. Like they had like stocks almost. Like you could sell items on the store, and like some items like one day would be worth like 10 Robux, and then the next day they'd be worth like 100 Robux. So you could buy
Oh,
like a flaming sword one day, and then just the next day it's worth way more. Because I think they also used to do a thing where there was only a certain number of items. Like they would sell, even though it's a digital game, it was like the first like NFT almost. Like you could buy a sword that only 1,000 of will ever exist, And that was also partly why like things would suddenly get really expensive, like in RuneScape when they have like the party hats and stuff that like got super expensive. It's like that.
TF2? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Any of the skins
That
that are like
whole era, I remember
really
that gaming as little kids, like
like
early 2000s. Yeah, those items really did feel pretty exclusive back then in a lot of games, especially that had trading where real money was involved.
yeah. I think maybe the government stepped in and steered us away from that or something. I don't know. Because it doesn't feel like it's quite like that. They went after my wallet in a new way where they just were upfront about it and said, this is what it's going to cost you.
All right, I wanna jump into a little tradition we have to get the conversation rolling about your career on the show, and that is I ask everyone the question, in your life at this moment, what is most important to you right now?
Wow. I'd probably go with my cat. I don't know. It's hard to go with
Hell
anything.
yeah.
That's what it's all for.
Do you wanna tell us a little bit about your beloved feline?
Yeah, her name's Star. She's 6. She is an only child. It's just me and her. She's pretty friendly to me, but she's not super nice to everyone else, but she is really cute.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know what breed she is or anything like that. She's like calico, but that's not a breed I know. That's just like color scheme. She's got like gray and white and some red on her, but she might be like some people say she looks like a Maine Coon, but she's not big enough. She's just fluffy enough.
She sounds adorable, and from having met her in person, I can attest. She is
Yeah,
indeed.
you have to play ignorant like you've never been to my house and my cat hasn't scratched you and made you sneeze.
No, it's all good. In the earlier episodes of this show, I am interviewing people that I know as we build this community. There's no pretense. We are friends. And I appreciate you being on the show. I'd love to hear more about what you do for work. If you could tell us, like you said, you're a project manager. What industry, what types of projects are you working on? Please don't share any sensitive information or anything that would get you in trouble. But as much as you can, tell us about like the type of work that you're doing, what the day to day is like for you and for people in the field.
It's more or less the same, but every day's different is a weird way to put it. But basically, I work in signage. We install signage for clients. I typically work with one specific client. Our company's national, and we have hundreds of clients that we work with on different teams or whatever. But me specifically, I actually do what is known as facility maintenance for this one client, which is basically to say, whenever something is like damaged of their signage that we provide them. They put in like a work ticket. It makes its way to my desk, and then I dispatch someone to take care of whatever issue they have. So like they have a poster in their lobby that is like missing because the customer like drew on it and now they need a new one. I can send that out to them and have someone put it up. Or if someone draws on their glass and they need to like replace the glass and then get their signage put up after the glass has been replaced, that they have like their opening door hours or whatnot, or their marketing graphics that they might have, like promotional offers of certain things, if that gets graffitied or ripped up or weathered. So basically anything in that vein, any bit of signage you could think of that someone could ruin, it makes its way to my desk. You have a lot more power in life than you realize. Just start drawing on things and you're going to ruin someone's day.
That segues perfectly into the next question I have for you. In a typical week, what do you find the most rewarding and what do you find the most frustrating? It sounds like some of these silly, avoidable vandalisms might be up there, at least, of the things that you find frustrating.
Yeah, I'll start with some of the frustrating things because they're more at the top of the dome. You'd be surprised how many people admit to being really stupid in their work orders. Like I have one thing where you've probably seen them before. They're like they probably don't even register when you see them because it's just one of those things you take for granted in our world. There's these little frosted vinyl squares. They look like etched glass almost,
Mhm.
like just a grayish off color, just something that is enough to catch the light. They're like 1 inch squares and they go across glass, and it's typically so that if you're walking around, you 100% can realize that there is glass in front of you because there is a floating square. Now,
Oh,
like,
similar to the things we put up so the birds don't fly into windows. He's like
yeah,
patterning on glass. Gotcha.
yeah. We refer to them as safety banding. I don't know what else to call them, or
Mhm.
safety squares, but I get very often, I get people going, our clients walked into the door today. Can we get something to stop this? And like when I get that work order, I've
Oh,
been in the
man.
business long enough that I know how to interpret that. Like I know what signage would correlate with that. But I'm not a genie. You can't just put in a request and I have to decipher it. Like, hey, we were dumb enough to walk into the door 3 times today. Can you fix that? How do you want me to fix that from your request? If you didn't know the thing that I know and you're just hoping something exists, what are you looking for? So a lot of my
Mm.
job involves me deciphering the unknowable. Like just people put in these requests and they might expect like a caution decal, like they just want to say caution on the door. And like you'll get out there to install and then the manager of the facility might be like, "Oh, I was expecting something else." And again, I'm like, "How? You didn't put any context or information. I had to go with like previous data from having done this job for 5 years to get this done. You told me almost nothing." That's very difficult to deal with day to day. I deal with a lot of people that will crash cars into like their storefront, and then I have to
Oof.
deal with that, get everything replaced quickly. And like those ones are funny. They just come through and the work order will say, "Someone crashed into our building today. Can we please get our signage replaced?" And like that it's just almost so casual when you're reading it because there's no urgency in the text. It's just, "Hey, we were hit by a car. When you get time."
Dang. So it sounds like you're juggling a lot of expectations from people who aren't necessarily very clear. Some people want things really fast. Some people, maybe they don't care as much, as well as other people aren't looking at the products that you guys even offer. And they're just hoping that you pick whatever aligns with what they're hoping for. That sounds pretty hard to deal with the ambiguousness that's built into your day to day. Does it
Yeah,
eat at you? What do you do to cope with that?
oh, I smoke a lot of weed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the way to manage. It's probably healthier than alcohol. I don't know if that's factually true. I'm just going to purport it to be true. Other than that, I recently moved to a new neighborhood that is decent for outdoor activity. I've been able to go swimming a good amount. There's like a lake behind my house.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so this summer I've been getting out a lot and blowing off steam that way.
Yeah, it's been a beautiful summer for that. And it definitely makes sense. Getting out in nature seems to be quite a many people's favorite way to de stress and recenter. Do you do anything else to try and keep yourself centered besides those things? Any mindfulness or anything like
Uh,
that?
so I don't want to be like too harping on this note necessarily, but like mindfulness wise, I think that goes like back to I smoke a lot of weed. I don't
Okay.
know necessarily everyone's experience with it, and I'm not trying to like be funny and be like, "Ooh." I usually do that. I usually do make jokes that like I smoke a lot, but like there's a mindfulness behind why I like to smoke. It puts you in a state of mind where you're a little more relaxed and willing to work through a thought process that you otherwise might not dedicate any time of day to. So like after work or whatever, if take a couple drags or whatever, like kind of the day slows down a little bit. You're able to process what happened, not just bombarded by anxiety all day long. Cause like my job, I don't know if I have ADHD, but it really rewards ADHD because you have to, like you said, there's a lot of balls in the air. Like you have to jump from one task to the other very quickly. And I don't know if I have ADHD and it's helping me to jump between tasks quickly. But the inverse of that is I don't stay on any one task very long. And that
Hmm.
can be equally difficult to like work through when you just like can't string two thoughts together because everybody's asking for something else at the same time. And yeah, there's a little mindfulness or like meditation aspect to smoking some ganja and relaxing.
Gotcha. I think that makes sense. Everybody needs to find a way to de stress, especially in a job that really triggers and adds to the sense of anxiety. It sounds like you and many others struggle with, myself included. So, I wanted to ask you about what are you currently working towards in your career? Do you have any goals that you're progressing towards? And at the same time, thus far in your career, what's been the greatest obstacle that you've had to overcome?
Both good questions. As for career wise, there's some mobility to go up. Like there's like it's still in the vein of project management. It's just like how far removed from the actual installer are you? I originally was an installer for the company that I am now a project manager for, but I wasn't an installer for them, like direct employee. I was a contractor that was contracted to do projects through them. And then through that familiarity, when a position opened up, I was able to apply and use those skills to get a job with the company. So the further you go up in project management from like installer to project manager to say senior project manager or account manager, you get further away from what's actually happening, like what people are actually doing. I don't know if I necessarily want to be any further removed from like the humanity side of this because you hear it all the time, like when people complain about like middle management and whatnot, like that people just don't see the picture clearly and that they get involved and put their hands in where they shouldn't. And I have gotten in the weeds of that and have seen it like firsthand where people that are above me don't realize like why the process is A to B to C because like you're a physical object, you're a human being. You like have to obey the laws of physics. Like people will look at a map and be like, why can't installer do these three jobs? They're in three different parts of the country. So that's why. Like they physically cannot exist in three different states. And they just don't recognize that like we're all in the same boat and we're limited by the same factors. And they just want to push their part forward to get their task done, but the actual job does not get done by finishing like certain check marks or tasks. I'd say that is the hardest part is dealing with understanding what's below me and what's above me and how to get the two sides to like work
Mm.
together and actually achieve what we're trying to do. Cuz otherwise like I specifically or uniquely have the issue that when I'm doing facilities maintenance, I will see the problem again. If it is not addressed, they are going to put in another ticket and we're going to do it again. And I am like the only person trapped in this hell where I wake up and I have to do the same thing every single day because someone else just wouldn't listen and get it done in the way they had to get it done. They got it done in a way that they could send their deliverables to their client and say it was done, and it's so difficult to get people to realize like how what the balance is to actually get it done in a way that we can bill it. The deliverables are what the client wants, and the actual people who have to live in the building where the problem happened are satisfied, because even if we do what say the client at the highest level wants, if the manager is complaining daily, it's going to end up on my desk and I'm going to have to address it at some level, you know?
So it's really getting at this idea of not just doing the job, but doing it well so that the solution is long lasting. I think that's true. That there is
Yeah,
like a tendency these
yeah,
days,
it's a hurdle.
people to try and find shortcuts or the most expedient way to go about something so that they can pack together as much like volume of work as possible. I'm hearing that from like above you as well. It's almost as if the job is getting abstracted at some level into spreadsheets and numbers, and they're forgetting about like the actual people doing the job and some of the limitations on them. That's really interesting. You're in this position kind of
Yeah,
keeping those two sides
yeah,
talking to each other and keeping each other in mind.
yeah, and without going too much into just very specific examples, it really all just comes down to what's physically possible. Like sometimes when you're installing something, there's a pipe behind the wall. You physically cannot install this without puncturing a pipe, which is not ideal. Like it's not good. You'll flood the building, you'll let gas leak out, you'll start a fire, something along those lines. Something like that could happen. The material, like if we use a lot of vinyl adhesive to like install vinyl
Hmm.
clings and stuff like that. There's certain paint types that like the client might not know that they used, like oil-based paints. You cannot put vinyl clings on certain oil-based paints because it just won't adhere. You need to use a different type of vinyl or use a primer to go over the thing so that you actually have something that you can like cling to. I'm not a scientist on why it necessarily works. I just know certain paint types are like slicker than others and like when they're dry and you just can't stick to them, the thing will fall down, and you have to convince the client sometimes because they'll think like it was just your bad
Mm.
install, but you have to convince them from the ground up you need to repaint or you need to pay more money for a stronger type of vinyl. One, there's something called TSV, it's like
Hmm.
texture surface vinyl, that it's really high tacked. Like it basically bonds with the wall. It's not coming
Okay.
down. You use heat to melt it in place, basically. You could do that, but like then you have to like kind of have these conversations with the client and go, is this supposed to be temporary? Do you own this building? Are you renting this space? Does the landlord let us do this? Is this something that you want permanently on your wall? And sometimes, like, you'll be dealing with one person that might think they have the authority to say yes, and they'll tell you to do it. And then you find out they did not have the authority to say yes. And you have to defend your position of, no, I did not deface your property. I have it in writing. I was told to do this. And you have to like reconcile relationships. Like you have to be very professional. You can't tell them that they were wrong, even though they led you astray to do the wrong
Mhm.
thing. It's all a lot of saving face, playing nice, and making them feel special and warm inside and very smart and handsome.
That sounds exhausting.
Yeah, those are my difficulties. The ego side of it, where people don't want to admit they're wrong and just want to kick the can down the road into someone else's camp. But again, as I've said, I have a very unique spot where I just deal with everybody's problems. So I've seen it on both sides of the fence.
That makes a lot of sense. I don't think it's a problem that's specific to any one group. I think that's something that, like, yeah, a lot of people have to deal with, and you are getting exposure to it from all sides. It sounds like I'm glad we're able to talk about that because it's not something that gets talked about a lot. The role that ego plays interfering with getting things done. Everybody needs to try and make themselves look good, and honestly, quite a lot of people want to do as little work as possible for as much reward. So it's a lot to contend with. But to like bring things up a little bit, what are
Yeah.
you most proud of so far in your career? Do you have any moment or thing that happened that really filled you with pride?
I guess going from installer to actual project manager was cool because I wasn't totally expecting that to happen. It was just, I didn't even know like how it happened. I was just like, on LinkedIn and I saw they had a posting and I was like, "Oh, I know that company. I work with them." And then I messaged someone that I work with or who currently works there as a coworker of mine now, project manager, and I was like, "Should I apply for this?" And they were like, "Are you joking or do you want me to put in like a recommendation?" And I was like, "Oh." And then the ball got rolling. Probably that is like where I felt like it was like the biggest step up of, oh wow, I've like actually achieved advancement in career. You go from blue collar to white collar.
Yeah, that's an accomplishment for sure. Happy that you're seeing this upward mobility in it. I know that these days it's really intimidating the process of trying to get your first foot in the door in any industry. I think that the requirements keep going up and your ability to gather experience and stuff keeps going down. The old joke of, oh, you need 5 years of work experience for an entry level job. What was it like for you to get the job of being the installer? Because we've heard a little bit of the installer to project manager transition, but like even before that, how did you get your foot into the industry?
All right, so that's more of a nepo story. My dad owned a company and made me work for him.
And that's fair. That is that
Like
really
straight up,
happens, and I think we should talk about it
yeah,
more. That is the way of the
yeah.
world.
Yeah, in high school, most of the kids got jobs at like the local Subway that we had in our town, or like the Dollar General, or the small time grocery store people would like work at. Like my dad straight up told me I could not do any of those jobs because he wanted me to do what he was doing so that he could increase all of our profit margins. As a kid, it was annoying because like I wanted the freedom to just have a job at
Mhm.
McDonald's or something. I just like work a regular job with my friends. But as a, I'm not a parent, but like understanding as an adult, like that your parent has to provide for your kids. Yeah, if you're able to do more jobs because you have more workers and those workers happen to be 15, so be it. Like back then, we did more cable installing for electrical stuff. Like I ran Ethernet data cables for dining systems,
Mhm.
kitchen dining systems. So like I worked at like Potbellies and Denny's and Red Robins and stuff like that, running cabling in their ceilings when they did conversions where they were upgrading their like OS and they like got new hardware, software. I would through various different projects, I would either have to physically swap out their server or like just bring a flash drive with me and update their OS or run a new data cable for the new system, like if they're putting a new kiosk down or something like that. So I had to do that. I worked with him. He would do most of the work. I was mostly like just a hand to like, because it's physically a two-person job to do most of that stuff, like running table,
Mhm.
being up on a ladder. It's just like impossible to do every job. So I was mostly just like deckhand for 3 years in high school. And then outside high school into college, we transitioned more into like hard construction stuff and signage, and then worked with this company I currently work for. We got some projects through them. And then I worked with my dad through college, and pretty much immediately after college, like 6 months after college, is when I saw that posting and I was like, I don't really want to work for my dad forever. So let's move up. And it ended up working out that way. But the original story, or the original like origin, is that I just physically, my dad made me work with him over the summer, like every year. And every spring break, every fall break, weekends, like any project that he needed extra hands on. He paid me though. From a pragmatic standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. You, as the parent provider, make more money, are able to take on more projects. You're also able to give your kid money so that they don't have to ask you for money. It's really a win-win. I get it. Didn't like it at the time.
But it is cool that it opened up this door to a career path for you.
Yeah, because by the time I was 23 and applying, I already had like 7, 8 years experience in the
Wow,
field.
that's huge.
Uh, Yeah, and it looks like you're lying when you do that, because 'cause they're like, Explain it to me again," and you're like, "No, I swear I was 15 wiring up these buildings. I'm, like, super cool."
Yeah. No, that is fair. And I'd wanna ask now, what did you study in college? Are you using a lot of what you went to college for in your day to day, or is it just added on to your perspective of things?
More the latter than the former. I think if you had asked me this question, like, 3 or 4 years ago, I'd probably be like, "No, I use what I learn in college every day. I'm so mindful of the different walks of life that we all have." But now, although I am aware of the different walks of life we all have, I don't feel that my particular expertise comes into play necessarily. I studied communication, and it was more like video communication. It was at like a liberal arts college, and we just took a lot of classes in a bunch of different subjects around communication. Like I took like journalism classes, ethics classes in journalism, and stuff like that. I had to take like video editing and animation courses, and I even took a course on like how to do podcasts. Honestly, was one of the things
Oh,
I
so I
had to
could learn a
do.
thing or 2 from you.
Um,
Alright.
yeah, yeah. So really, we need to be doing this all different. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But yeah, stuff like that. And I, I wanted at the time to do something kind of like what we're doing now. So I'm glad that you invited me. I wanted to be doing content creation to share new perspectives and ideas at the time. In the business world, people are surprisingly reluctant to new ideas. So I'm not presenting new ideas as much as I thought I would with communication degree, but I would say I use it sparingly. Like I didn't use any of the technical expertise of animation or video editing or anything like that. Like I do next to nothing with any of that, but there is a certain way in which you need to communicate with people and get the idea across a certain way that writing classes have helped me out with, or public speaking classes help you out with. But in my honest opinion, college was not necessary to get those skills. I think you could definitely earn them through just regular life trials, and just being in the world and the working world and all that. I think you're going to end up with most of the skills that you would get from college, even if it's a little bit later in life, but it'll be through a more honest development rather than telling you how to think. And then, because college is more like a practice run at a lot of things, it teaches you like what to look out for in certain ways. It gives you the tools to use in your career, your profession, but it doesn't really, if you don't know how to use the tools, it doesn't really do much for you. It could teach you certain communication aspects, certain like models of mindfulness and certain stuff like that, but it doesn't necessarily translate to the real world, because people are all different. Everybody reacts a different way. We're all quirky that way. So I think it's probably better if you're just more of a sociable person. Learning social skills is way more important than learning anything that they're going to teach you. Luckily, you can also learn social skills at college by being around a lot of people that are happen to be in the same demographic as you. interesting. It's like the last time in your life that you're surrounded by people of your same demographic, your same peers. Once you go into the business world, there's no guarantee you're going to be surrounded by 30 plus 22-year olds, 18-year olds, or 30-year olds, or whatever age you are at whatever age you work. There's no guarantee you're going to be around people of that background. So it's interesting and useful in that regard that it helps teach you certain social skills around your peers. But I think all of that can be earned in the real world also. I don't know if that answers your
Yeah,
question. I
no,
did
I
get a little
think
rambly
I really
there.
appreciate you going into that because that is something I was going to ask you about. So it's great for us to jump into the value of college in your eyes because I think that's something that's starting to come into question in general. It's become the default. You need to do this to be successful. And then I think more and more people are getting out of college and going, wow, a lot of the stuff I learned has nothing to do with what I actually need for my day to day job. And I think that there is like definitely a big side of nuance to it where are some jobs where you need technical skills. And I think the hardest part, the thing that we need to be telling younger people more and more is to look into the actual types of jobs that you're interested in, not just the field. Because I think a lot of people frame it just as like, pick a field, you'll figure it out, but you need very different skills. And some colleges for the same degree will be teaching different skills. And especially, I mean, out of my degree, I got a lot of really good design thinking. And I value that a lot. Having to defend your designs in front of really knowledgeable people was good for me. It helps me learn how to succinctly express my ideas and defend them and builds confidence in me as a designer. But some of the practical skills that I really loved and like technical skills that I thought would be going into the workplace, it's really hard to find jobs using those specific skills. And people going to different colleges learn different skills, and some of those are more marketable or less marketable. So it's really something just for people to keep in mind. And that is the whole point of the show, is to talk to people who are trying to figure out this phase of life. Should I go to college? What career should I jump into? And that's why I'm trying to talk to people who are happy and unhappy in a wide variety of fields to try and get a pulse of where things are and help give people some information so that they can decide for themselves what feels right for them, how much risk they want to take on, and where they think that they'll be happy. Because that's the point of it all. Try and build a life that you're satisfied with and happy with. I think just a couple more questions on your profession. You don't have to share specifics, but the amount that you're being compensated right now, would you say it's enough to live a comfortable life? And is it about equal to what you would expect looking from the outside in? Like when you were looking at this field in both of these positions you've held so far, if you could answer, did you feel comfortable? Were you able to live a comfortable life with that pay? And is it about what you were expecting or more or
Uh,
less?
for being an installer, I would say I feel I was fairly compensated for the work I did at the time. I didn't find it to be super sustainable, or at least not without putting a lot more effort into it, because you get paid by the job. So if you
Oh,
market
okay.
yourself really well and you get a lot of jobs done, then yes, but you can only do so many jobs per day. So then you have to really measure against the strain on your body versus the compensation. And in that regard, I would say no, I don't think that was really a good way to go. Getting out of the blue collar field was definitely the right move. In the white collar field, I think I'm paid enough that I live comfortably. I think I would probably deserve a tiny bit more than what I am compensated at. Like within 10% of like where I'm at is like what I think I should get. But I genuinely believe that the salary I have currently is enough for anyone to live a comfortable life. But it depends on where you're at. If I had made the salary I make, but I lived in like New York, no, no, just hard no. I would die. I would die on the streets a penniless hobo. But I live like not southern Illinois, but I live like rural in Illinois. There's cornfields all around me. There's not a whole lot of like city landscape around me, so things are a lot cheaper down here. Gas is cheaper, rent is cheaper, that kind of stuff. So if you find like the right area, yes, and luckily I have a job that supports remote work, so I'm able to earn like wages that are slightly above the average of the area I'm at, and then I just work remote and save money that way too. So it comes down to like compensation kind of thing with like work life balance as well. Like being able to work remote, work from home is worth more to me than what they could compensate me in money, because like I don't have to drive 3 days a week. And when I do drive to work, it's over an
Oh,
hour each
wow.
way, which is just a huge
Yeah.
waste of time. I used to drive in 5 days a week up until about a year and a half ago. And that's just 2 hours at least a day times 52 weeks or 5 days a week, 52 weeks. It's 1,000 hours just thrown away. It's nice to get that back. It's worth more than I think they could pay me. If they gave me the salary that in my brain I feel this job is entitled to, I would rather keep my current setup than take that salary if it meant I had to go into the office. Some people might prefer to be more social and work in an office, or it might not bother them to live more in like a city area, but you're just going to have certain complications or issues that you just have to be prepared to deal with. My commute being over an hour when I do drive in is just something I take for fact. It's just going to happen every day when I drive in. It's part of your schedule, part of your life. You just have to accept it. There's no getting around it.
I would like to ask for that person looking towards this career path, like what type of person, like what type of demeanor, what type of work ethic would you say aligns with being in signage and this installation field of signage? Speaking from your project management role right now, like what type of person aligns with that? Does it need to be someone really detail oriented? It sounds like someone who's really comfortable dealing with a lot of problems at once, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, as I describe it, I think it rewards the ADHD lifestyle. I feel like I may or may not be on that spectrum, but I've never gone to a doctor. So I'm sorry if that's offensive to anyone, but I genuinely do mean it. There's just so many tasks that you have to bounce around that if you're not comfortable having a bunch of different thoughts like that, then you're just not going to be able to do the job. But other than just having the capability to bounce between one project and the next, mostly it comes down to just sociability. You just have to be able to present yourself as knowledgeable, presentable, like a decent person, not too egotistic. Like it's really a balancing act of just being a nice guy and also being competent. If you have basic problem solving skills and are, as you said, detail oriented, like that helps. But it's mostly going to come down to knowing what you have to work with and how to use that to your advantage. So if you're a creative thinker, your options are more open, but you also have to have a business oriented mind and know what the client is going to want, what's business professional. You can't just go out there and say, we could use a bunch of duct tape and get that up on the wall. Like, yes, that's an answer. You could do that. It's going to look terrible. It's not professional in the slightest. So you have to have, I don't believe in it, but you have to have common sense. I don't believe common sense exists. I don't think that there's any common thread that we all really share for common sense. And I say that as an authority. All right. I'm putting my foot down. I have dealt with so many people in this field where I've said the same exact sentence of put this here. And then they just go out and do the most left field thing possible, interpreting my words in ways that words have never been interpreted. And it's just insane. I don't believe that common sense is a thing. It can't be. Like, people just don't look at things the same way across any spectrum. You might be able to get like almost a semblance of common sense, but nobody has common sense. But the more common sense you have, the better you'll be at this job. That's the best I could
Okay.
put it.
Definitely gives us a good sense. The last question directly about your job that you have right now. How do you feel in terms of job security? Do you feel like any pressure? Is it something that you worry about? Or do you feel pretty secure having this job for the coming years until you're ready to move on?
I'm gonna go a little doomsayer. I didn't believe this until super recently, but I would say I'm pretty secure for the moment. They're not going to outsource my job. I mean that in a corporate landscape way where they constantly take jobs overseas. I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think it makes sense for them to do that. I don't think they're going to give my job to a robot, or at least not current minute. But my doomsayer is I think we're about 10 ish years away with AI advancements. In about 10 years, I think an AI could probably do about 80% of
Mm,
my job, which doesn't mean that my job is going away. It means that they are not going to hire new people. So I think like the industry will shrink over the course of like the next 10 years while AI
yeah.
ramps up and there's just quicker ways to, because a lot of my job I haven't really mentioned. I've mentioned the human side where I'm dealing with people and
Hmm.
egos and deadline. The other side is paperwork, and AI will take all of my job for the paperwork and billing aspect, which is at least 50 to 60% of what I do. So once you have AI that can filter the work order requests that I receive, like currently it takes a little bit of know how. Like I said, some people will say, we walked
Yeah,
into the
that
door today,
interpreting people's
we want to fix
problems
it.
into
Like,
solutions.
yeah, as AI gets better at that and learns how to do that, it'll take away from what I can do. And I think as other businesses grow, they will invest in AI. They will have internal AI models they can refer to for these things. Our company is currently developing some internal AI model that we're supposed to use basically for like client requests. So, like, you don't want to put your own business model on an AI. You don't want to just go to Grok or Chat GPT and start putting in all your clients' personal information, because then it just adds it to the AI model, the public model that everyone can access. And
Privacy
then people
concerns.
who are just like Googling things will, yeah, find out stuff about the company that's just like now in the world. So and I'm sure other companies do it too or are in the process of doing it. We're developing an AI model for internal use so that we can scan like customer documents and not have to worry about the information leaking to anyone else. It's all for internal use. But what comes with that means that in 3 to 5 years' time, they don't have to go, hey, Alex, you remember when we did that project 3 years ago? What was the solution for how, like, the doors weren't wide enough to get this type of signage on? What did the client end up going with? If you're an account manager or project manager or anything like that, like, your experience is your value, but AI will just remember that forever.
Mm,
So if the account or the project was done using an AI at the time, you don't have to go to who the account manager is. You don't have to go to the project manager. You can just go straight to the source and go to the AI and be like, hey, AI, when we did this project, what kind of vinyl did we use? And it'll remember the vinyl you used. It'll remember the cost per square foot, the cost for installation. It'll remember who you used as like the shipper, all that stuff, like all your personal contacts and information that like make you a good businessman will not matter in 10 years, is how I am doomsaying it. I don't know if that's 100% true. This is just my opinion on
I think
this
it's a
little
very valid
podcast.
concern, though, and something that across industries is being felt. There's a building anxiety of what does the world look like when so much of work is tedious things, getting younger people usually to do and older people overseeing it. And when AI is doing a lot of these tedious tasks, and even scarier when it starts doing the more logistical, large scale, large brain thinking tasks. What does that mean for everyone? And that's not the point of the podcast.
Uh,
So I think we'll
yeah.
end the dive into it there and jump into hearing a little bit about your coming of age. So, Alex, I want to hear a little bit about, if you'll humor me to get a little esoterical here for a moment, the process of you shifting your mindset from being a teenager trying to find his place in the world to an adult that has established himself in an industry. What was that transition like for you? Is it still ongoing, or do you feel like it ended a while ago? And were there any pivotal things that really accelerated or marked a milestone in
I
that
would say
journey for you?
COVID is just my blanket answer. I feel like there was a hard stop in my life from definitely feeling like a kid to definitely feeling like I have responsibilities. And that was marked pretty much right with COVID. I graduated the year like 2020, May of 2020, which was like 2, 3 months
Mhm.
into like when COVID happened. Like there was like full lockdowns and stuff like that. I had to, after that, just
Mhm.
do regular life stuff or whatever. Like that's leaving college. That's true of anyone, like that you're suddenly just responsible for your own life, full stop at that age. There's no more like dilly dally. You don't get to put off and be like, oh, I'm still learning. So once I'm done learning, like then I'll have to do all this. Like at that point, you're like in it and you just have to live your life after college. You can't really, I guess, just have your head in the clouds and expect that you're going to grow up someday. I think that's pretty much the point where you can no longer say, when I grow up, is like right after you graduated college. You can't say like, when I grow up, I want to be a blank. You just have to start saying, I would like to be a blank. You don't say the when I grow up part. And I think that's pretty much anyone leaving college. I think that's a fact. I think doubly so for people that got hit by COVID and had to deal with lockdowns and trying to manage a social life in that way while also still trying to earn a living and also trying not to die.
Stressful times for everyone. Do you think that your perspective shifted a lot, like the way that you view the world? Has that changed quite a bit in this now more adult phase of your life? Do you look at the world differently than
Yeah,
growing up?
yeah, I think with growing up and the veil being lifted off or whatever and like seeing things differently, I do I still point back to COVID because I feel like that just time brought out the worst in a lot of people and it was like a worst that I hadn't seen before. I didn't realize that
Yeah,
people could be so vicious in a lot of ways. There
yeah.
are people just staunchly refusing to do the smallest accommodation for a marginalized group of people. And then it's like you just have to deal with people being entitled, people feeling that their needs are greater than anyone else's. I think it brought out the worst in a lot of people, but then I think that the worst stayed out in a lot of people afterwards. So to get a little, I think it's a cringy quote, is I lost my faith in humanity or whatever. Like I don't use that quote or whatever like real. Like I use a little jokingly or whatever. But if I were to say that, it would be around that time. Like I lost my faith in humanity during COVID. I don't fully feel that way. I just feel that I noticed that's when people could be really nasty and hateful and spiteful and ignorant. And it was a lot of things that I hadn't noticed people could be before. Because like when you're growing up, you feel like the world is by design. It makes sense. Like over thousands of years, we've cultivated a society. You would assume that these problems have been addressed before and could easily be tackled again. And then you find out that nobody is willing to put people first and everybody's just out for themselves and a lot of misinformation going around and then just everybody at each other's throats because you believe in the misinformation and you believe in what I call misinformation and that's fake news. There's so many things where like the we could come together and we could do the right thing and we could work together, but we really just don't. And I don't know why society hasn't figured that out. I don't know why it pits us against each other in a lot of aspects, like simply in just a work environment. Like a lot of things become zero sum games of I get something, so you can't get something, or you get something, so I can't get something. And I just think that it was the most noticeable during COVID.
Yeah, I think that zero sum game thing can really be a trap where, like, a trap of a way of thinking where a lot of people will think that in order to win, others must lose. When a lot of the case, it's really, there's a solution where everybody wins. You might not get the entire thing you want exactly how you want it right when you want it, but there is usually a solution where everyone walks away happy. And I think that people who find the way to do that consistently build respect and prestige within their field, and people want to work with them more because whoever wants to work with someone that you walk away feeling like you lost, they won. We're touching on like the dark underlying elements of society bubbling up during this really stressful time of the pandemic. Have you felt any pressure from society to fill some kind of predefined role? It's just something I'm asking everybody because I think that it's interesting to hear. Do you feel like people tried to push you into a certain box that you did or didn't fit in? And what's your struggle been with that? Has there been one?
I would like to go and have a huge long answer for that, but unfortunately, I really don't think that applies to me very much. I don't feel I've been pushed into any particular box or anything like that. I don't really think that, yeah, society has forced me to be someone that I'm not. Maybe I'm just comfortable ignoring that, or maybe I'm just ignorant to people who have tried to do that, but I don't have much experience to go on, honestly.
Totally fair. And honestly, that's a good thing. I'm glad you haven't felt pressured to be anything other than yourself. I think that's ideal for everyone, but not everyone's experience. So I like to ask. I am curious, playing video games, and I know just from knowing you, you play a lot of board games. This is gamers growing up. So we're interested in all types of games. Do you think that there have been any skills or ways of thinking, anything that you've gotten out of being a gamer that has helped you in life?
I would say yes without any research or without any studies of science. I just want to say yes.
Yeah, it's just
Be-
your feeling.
There's, and I don't know the specific studies or whatnot, but I just know I've heard it said before. So if I'm spreading misinformation, I'm sorry. You look it up yourself and get back to me and let me know I'm wrong. But I've read before that playing video games like things like Mario, even like the old school Mario, where you're like Mario 1, where you're just platforming and jumping across. Stuff like that just helps you with problem solving and it helps you with decision making because you have to make a decision to progress the game. So it trains that part of the brain that makes decisions. So you're able to make more snappy real life decisions, even based on the little bit of training of just jumping from platform A to B. So just playing a platforming game start to finish will help train your body to make faster decisions. Whether those decisions are right or wrong, who can say? But I do think that the skills of actually gaming translate to real life skills like hand eye coordination and decision making, which I think I've benefited from in one way or another.
The brain is a muscle, and games are a great way to work out that muscle. I think that they get a bad rap, and that's why I like to ask that question to try and rebuild some of their reputation, especially for kids, because I know a lot of the smartest people that I know grew up playing games. And is that a coincidence? Probably. But I think that there was some sort of correlation as well. I think that it helps work out your brain, among many other great things. I'm very curious if you've had any heroes or people that you find inspirational, whether they be real people or fictional characters you really relate to. I'm just curious, what inspires you? Have there been any figures that you draw inspiration from?
I don't think that there's any character I really look to and I try to emulate. Like, I don't, no, I really don't think I have heroes to that regard. I'll watch a Marvel film and think Captain America's a good guy for being willing to save the country, but I don't then live by that credence every day. I don't wake up looking for grenades to jump on. I don't think I carry that level with me. So I really don't think I hold any hero's mantra close to my heart.
I guess on a smaller, less grand scale, but more day to day, like anybody in your life who you think was really influential in helping shape who you are?
I don't have a great answer, honestly. I feel like I'm just coming up with, and maybe they're not jokes because like they're just part of like my answer, but I want to say something like Hank Hill that feels silly, but I don't know. That guy taught that hard work pays off, that personal happiness is important. I guess those messages stick with me.
If you haven't drank any water recently, here's your hydration reminder because it's sponsor time. Hey, do you notice how nice and crisp those captions look? That's all thanks to Descript. This show wouldn't be possible without the epic editing tools provided by Descript. When I was starting out making the podcast, I searched far and wide for editing software that would let me separate my captions from those of my guests. And Descript was the only software I could find that allowed me to bring my vision to life. Now, they're not a sponsor of this channel yet, but I'd like your help to change that. I really cannot recommend Descript enough as a video editing tool. Their direct text editing, AI filler word remover, and top tier captions are just a dream to work with. If you want to see this podcast grow, let our friends at Descript know down in the comments that they should sponsor this show. Thank you, Descript, for the great video editing tools. Are you enjoying the show? Do you want to let your friends know that this is your new favorite podcast? You should head on over to the official GGUP merch store and get that legendary loot. Get dripped out, stylish shirts, hats, and even stickers. There are over 100 designs created by yours truly, and you can get them all on all kinds of things. Click the link in the description to check out the merch store today. Now, back to the episode. I ask these questions because I want to shift the conversation over towards relationships a little bit. It's interesting to hear how you have developed your mindset and who you are, what influences brought you there. I think that it's getting harder than ever to establish new relationships as things shift more online. And the traditional ways of going about building relationships are evolving and we're not tracking it enough. So I am curious if you had to break into rough percentages, where have you met your friends in life? Were they people that you knew growing up, people that you met in college, people you met at work, just adults that you met in life as an adult in general through friends or what have you? What are the percentages of like where people you've met in your life coming from?
I would say 75 to 80% are holdovers from like friends that I met growing up, like in middle school, grade school, high school. Like 75 to 80% of that is like literally just people I went to school with as a kid. And then 5% would be like friends of my brother that I met through him, just hanging out with him, just like merged friend groups that way. And then probably like 5% was also college friends, and then The remainder would be like, honestly, like this year, it feels weird to count your friends out loud and be like, I made a friend today. But I probably made 3 or 4 friends about this year just by going to a local card shop where I live and just participating in tournaments of various different games, some TCG, some esport. So, like, the remainder would come from that group setting of going to a physical location with a hobby and meeting other people who share that hobby, but mostly it would be through just people I've known for 20 plus years from school.
Cool. I'm glad to hear that you're bringing in more friends and still cherishing those that have been with you for a long time. I'm curious, networking is something that a lot of people struggle with and find quite intimidating, especially those who are just getting into the working world. Do you do a lot of networking? Would you say it's important for your field? And do you have any advice for people?
Yes, I would say networking is incredibly important in this field. I don't do it enough to probably help myself out in the future, like with upward mobility. The people you know almost certainly guarantee what you're going to end up doing. Like, just you could take the experience of, like I said, working with my dad, that's networking from the beginning. Then the people that I knew when I applied to be a project manager that recommended me, or I was able to put on my resume, that's networking. Everything about the job requires networking. I don't want to be like a doomsayer and say there's no point in trying to get a job if you don't know someone on the inside. Obviously, put your best foot forward and try your best, and you never know what's going to happen. But to put it in realistic terms, you definitely want to find someone on the inside that can go to bat for you, that can help introduce you to other people so that you can make good impressions on other people. And that's going to get you a lot further than what you actually know.
Just in general, would you say that your career affects your relationships? Is it putting any strain on them or any positive things?
Yes, my work does affect relationships I have with people. So I've mentioned before, within the last breath, most likely, that I worked for my dad before. My dad still works as a contractor for the company that I currently work for. I would technically be his boss in those situations. If he's ever
Oh, that's got to be
doing,
strange.
yeah, it's different. I like it, but it's different. I used to have to like do whatever my dad said, and now the shoes on the other foot. I don't think it's made things worse. I've probably gotten easier to talk to because of being his boss, breaking down that barrier. It's probably weird growing up and then having to internalize that you are of the same worth as your own parents, like that you are a member of society that produces, that provides, that pays your taxes. Growing up and internalizing that you have the same significance to the world that any other person, including your own parents, are, is interesting. So having that relationship where I'm realizing that I have the same significance that a business owner, that my father, that a worker has is interesting and definitely opens up a new dynamic with personal relationships.
It sounds like that really helps you build a lot of confidence, right? Being able to, through your work, rise up in status. That's got to feel reassuring.
It can be, yeah. I wouldn't say that it came overnight. Like, I don't know how true it is with everyone, but my first like 6 months to 8 months at the company I work for, I'd say I experienced what is known as imposter syndrome, which is like where you just don't feel like you're really performing at the ability that you think that the job requires, that you're looking around and everyone else has got it figured out and you don't for some reason. Yeah, that would definitely have been most of my first year working for my company. Dealing with just daily aspects of the job will slowly build your confidence. The dynamic you have with your installers, especially if it's your father, will definitely change your confidence over time because you have to go from where their answer was always the right answer to, have you tried it my way? Let's see if what I'm saying makes as much sense as what you've been doing. And then once you get enough like experience under your belt to realize, okay, when I made that judgment call, things did not explode. Everything was perfectly fine. Maybe I can make that judgment call again. And then just slowly building your confidence from there because you realize that you're probably not an idiot if you've been able to get this far.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that that is something, a piece of advice that I heard. I don't remember exactly from where, but I think it really rings true that confidence is built from repeatedly proving your competence. Like the more that you prove to yourself that you know how to do things, you have a big stack of successful things that you've done, even if they're small, you start to feel really reassured that even if I am not someone who immediately was like gifted with the self assurance or had a upbringing that left me feeling very self conscious. If you have a big stack of like, well, I've done all right before, it'll probably go well in the future, and that's great to keep in mind. Just keep stacking those small wins, and they build into this evidence that you are who you say you are and can help fight this imposter syndrome that's so easy to fall into these days. Now, I want to ask Alex a couple questions about you specifically. If you had a health bar out of 100 and you had to give me a number of where your health is at right now, and I'm talking physically, but also emotionally, spiritually, just holistically, how are you doing?
I'd probably put myself somewhere around like 35 HP out of 100.
Whew, he's taking some
I'm very
damage.
Yeah, I've taken a lot of damage. I'm very tired from work. I definitely need some time off. Usually happens, I only have so many days off a year, but I have to take a certain amount of days off for family stuff. Like every year, guaranteed, I always end up like going on a trip, usually with my family, sometimes by myself, but that usually eats up about a week. So like I need 7 days for that. And I usually save that to the end of the year to do that trip. And that's usually when my HP bar goes back up to 85, 90 because you get the good rejuvenation of it being off work for a week. I have not had a day off of work besides regular weekends in 6 months.
Oh,
So I'm
wow.
just
He's been
very
grinding.
over it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I guess there was 4th of July like a month ago or something like that, 2 months ago. So I had that. But like outside of like just federal allotted holidays and 9 to 5 work week, I've had 2 days off this year, which is awful.
Oh, it's a little remiss of me. I didn't ask you. Is your schedule just typical? It's 9 to 5 during the week?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's just yeah, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, typical business life.
cool. I hope that you are able to get some rest soon to get healed back up. I know that burnout is something that is becoming a very common trend on the show. I think that's something that a lot of people are struggling with, and making sure to not let it get out of control is vital. So I know me and plenty of people I care about have really struggled with that. You can always exert yourself at the cost of your own well being until you can't anymore. And that's a rough spot to be in. So I hope that you're able to take a vacation sometime soon, my friend. Do you think that your hobbies are giving you any healing? Like going out to these card shops, meeting people, anything else like that? Are you getting any restoration?
Short lived through the weekend, but yeah, it helps out to be able to play some video games or card games or whatever.
Just enough to keep you going. Gotcha. But I want to hear, in your view, what are the criteria of a happy life? What does a life have to have, if just to you, what does it mean to you for a life to be happy? What are the things that you need?
So I'm one of those people that doesn't believe in a one size fits all answer. And that includes in my own answer. I don't think there's any lists of things you could ever write down that would just equate happiness if you gave it to someone. So, like, the really only answer you could give, or in my opinion, for what is happiness is fulfillment. And you can't measure what grants fulfillment because even something that might make you feel fulfilled today won't make you feel that tomorrow. And it could be something as simple as like a card game that you play. Like you might like collecting the cards, and then just like over time, you realize I have most of the cards I want to collect out of this, or the game's not that fun for me to play. And then the fulfillment goes away, and then you have to move on to something else that you find fulfillment in. So I don't think there's any one answer that's going to last a lifetime to grant happiness.
I think that's pretty true. In your current snapshot of life, what is bringing you this happiness, this fulfillment? If you could give a couple of things.
I would probably say like peace of mind in knowing that I've achieved certain milestones. Like I have a house, which is pretty cool, or feels
Nice.
good to know that you like have property that like 100 years ago wouldn't have been that crazy to be 26 and have a house. I think the average like age of buying a home is like in the 30s. So like to have that out of the way is a nice level of fulfillment. Same thing with like having a career. Even if I don't love the career, knowing that you have job security and something that's going to pay the bills and provide a lifestyle provides its own level of fulfillment, even if you hate the day to day.
Gotcha. I think that milestones exist for a reason. And for you to be able to hit some pretty significant ones fairly early on in your adult life, for sure, that makes a lot of sense. That would be fulfilling. I'm glad to hear that you're on a good path with that. Out of 100, where would you say you're sitting in satisfaction of life or fulfillment, if you want to put it that way?
I don't know, probably around 70. I'm satisfied with what I've done. I don't know necessarily that I'm achieving anything at this exact moment in life. So I think it's stale. Like I said, your fulfillment one day won't really necessarily translate to the next, but nothing's too dire or overwhelming in a way. I'd say I've achieved a lot of the things I wanted to achieve by this point in time, and I feel satisfaction from that.
When it comes to growth and staying motivated, do you think that your motivation comes from these milestones or sources of fulfillment starting to stale and you then want to seek out new ones? Or are you getting your motivation to progress from some other source?
My motivation is almost entirely, I don't know the best word to use. I want to just say based on human needs. I do things like I cook food when I'm hungry is basically where I'm at with it. I don't go outside my box looking for new challenges. I didn't realize at the time I bought a house like a year ago, a little less than a year ago. I didn't realize how attainable that was at the time for me. And it wasn't until I was pushed in a situation where my housing situation became difficult that I had to start looking at other options. And then I realized that this was attainable. And then I just moved forward with that idea and then I bought a house. I would say my motivations are always almost short term, just like whatever in my environment is currently pushing me to do something is what motivates me. So needing money for clothing, food, whatever is going to motivate me to actually do something different. Like I'll save money for a long time and then spend it on a hobby or something for fun. And I'm just motivated to save money for a hobby or for a trip or something like that.
Gotcha. Do you put a lot of weight into the pursuit of purpose? I'm curious, does that have meaning to you? Is it something
No,
that you have No, no.
I want to entertain, but not really.
Oh,
I go back to the levels of
very
happiness. I don't
practical
think there's
guy.
any, yeah, I don't think there's any answer that grants purpose to anyone. You have to just kind of accept that there's not a purpose and you find your own things to do throughout your day. You're really responsible for what you do. You can't necessarily claim that like you have a greater purpose for being on this planet and you can convince yourself of that, I'm sure. I personally I don't subscribe to that idea that any of us are here for any particular reason except for just to continue living the human condition.
I think your answer makes sense because it sounds that you are very externally motivated, and for people who need, like, a more internal, I think it eats at us a little more of, like, "What's the point of anything? If I could do anything, well, how do I pick something?" And you have, like, a much more practical view of things, which honestly sounds like it makes life quite a bit simpler in some ways, and I would feel it would solve quite a bit of my own mental health struggles that I deal with if I viewed the world that way. So as with all things, advantages and disadvantages, no matter which way you go it. Everybody just gets their own hand. So we'll skip the purpose section any further and get right into the counterspell section, as I've been calling it, where it's your turn. You can ask me any one thing that you want to talk about, you want to hear my opinion of one question you have for me. Shoot.
What is the best monster?
Of all time? In any media?
Yeah, like
Ooh.
Wolfman, Dracula, any monster you've ever heard of. The Tully monster, a cryptid. What's the best one?
I would give my favorite, I think, because best is hard to pick. There's a lot of cool monsters for different reasons. If you want something
There's
scary, if you
Mothman.
want
Mothman's
something
pretty cool.
mysterious. Yeah. I think I love the like lore of vampires. So Dracula just it doesn't get cooler than that for me. That he really has this aura, this mystique to him that like I love the intrigue, the charm mixed with the real like savagery. I think that he as shown in like Castlevania, he's a terrifying enemy to be up against. But then you look at other parts of media where vampires use their charm and manipulation in order to move pieces around in society. I just think that there's a lot of meat there. You could do a lot of really cool things with vampires, and it's something that I've always thought is really cool. And they have some of the best powers. You could shapeshift, you could turn into mist, you are immortal. If you told me I had to be a monster forever, vampire, for sure. There's even in some shows, they're like, "Yeah, you don't even have to kill people, just eat blood from steak or something."
Yeah,
Um,
just go eat a cow in the
yeah,
wild.
that's just my favorite of them. Do you have a favorite monster as well?
Dracula's pretty cool. Frankenstein's really strong. Wolfman is a wolf.
Hard to beat.
Yeah, I don't know why I went down this train of thought if I don't have an answer myself. I also want to gravitate toward Dracula.
It's okay, I
Dracula's
can just
pretty
have
cool.
the objective right answer. I think that's good.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, let's jump into cheat codes. We could circle back if you think of an answer you want to share for that. But I want to end on this idea of cheat codes. If you could go back in
Okay.
time and talk to your 17-year-old self, like right before you went to college, when you're trying to figure out what you're doing with your life, are you continuing to walk down this path that your father has opened the door to you for? If you gave yourself three pieces of advice knowing what you know now, what would they be?
I probably would be too afraid of like butterfly effect for my advice to really work. But like
Not
I would
trying to
tell myself
change
not to go
time.
to college. Like it
Yeah.
would though, because I wouldn't go to college. But then if I didn't go to college, I don't know what would happen. I
Okay.
feel like I probably would be fine if I didn't go to college, but I can't say for certain that things would line up the way that they did.
But you're saying
If I
you
did.
you would tell yourself not to go to college,
Yeah, it's a lot of money that I owe that I'd rather not owe.
and you feel
Like
like you didn't get enough out of it that you couldn't have gotten from other places? It sounds like?
yeah. Yeah, I feel like a regular life experience would have been a lot cheaper.
Do you think you would
And
still have been able to progress in your career the same way?
I do, but I'm not certain. I think it would probably work out the same way, but it's possible that I might have got burnt out working for my dad earlier if I wasn't in college because with being in college, I could only work when I wasn't in class. If I had to do that job 24/7, that backbreaking job, I might have got burnt out sooner and not stuck with it and then not been able to find a project manager job in the same field.
Mm,
So you're pulling a Jenga blocks. Eventually the tower is going to come down.
and what about these other 2 pieces of advice?
I would probably tell myself not to spend so much money on card games. Like, I spend a lot of money on card games that I don't necessarily play all of them. Like, I spent a lot of money on Yu-Gi-Oh, and that's a dying game. I like playing the games, but no one really plays the physical media anymore. I go on Master Duel or something, and then people have like better decks than me because they play it more, and then it's not fun. I probably would just not spend as much money on Yu-Gi-Oh specifically.
Mm,
That's
okay.
2. And then maybe number 3, I would probably tell myself I could afford a house sooner. I think I probably could have afforded one sooner than I did, and it probably would have been smarter just knowing, like, how markets work and whatnot and equity and such.
Do you think that you've gotten a lot of peace of mind out of having your own home? What are the not so tangible, but really real benefits that you've gotten out of living on your own in your own place?
Well, before this, I was in an apartment, and it's kinda weird, but it's really nice having your own parking spot. Like, in your own house. It kinda sucked coming in from, like, a hard day of work, I told you I had to drive, like, an hour home. I live just about as far now as I did when I lived in an apartment from my work. So I still had to drive, like, an hour in and an hour back. It would suck coming in at, like, 7 o'clock. You're starving. You know that the first thing you do when you get in is you have to clean the dishes and cook dinner, and you can't even find a parking spot. Like, it's just
Mm.
the little peace of mind that comes from I just pull into my house, and that's where I'm at, and then I'm there. That's kinda nice.
Now, if you had to give advice to someone who's younger than you and is thinking of walking a similar path, maybe they're interested in working as an installer, maybe they're interested in working as a project manager. If you could answer from your perspective on both of those career steps and like the general path that you're on, would you advise this path? We've talked a little bit about the type of person who would find success in it, but is it something that you would say, yeah, you can have a happy life here if you commit to
If
it and
I
you know what you're getting into, go for it.
Yeah, if I knew the person, I don't think it's for everyone, but if I knew the person well enough and I thought like their personality meshed with it and that they had what like innate skills I feel are necessary for the job, I'd recommend it to them.
And do you have any advice to someone who's looking to walk this path to help them succeed? Maybe faster or easier
Uh,
than you did?
Mostly just don't get too married to the idea of one company. There's people that work for my dad still that are like too into it. There's other employers out there. You don't have to work with the same employer and think that's the linear path to get where you're going. You can jump industries, and in a lot of cases, that will actually help you speed up what you're trying to do. Like if you're trying to become a project manager, you can work in different industries to gain more experience. You don't necessarily have to work under the same employer and have loyalty to one employer.
Gotcha. And with that, thank you so much for coming on the show, Alex. It's been a pleasure to have you on here.
Yeah, it was fun. We can find time to do it again sometime.
For sure. Yeah, I definitely would love to check in with people further down the road and see if their perspectives change and how things progress. We wish you a lot of success and good health and hope that you get to have some rest sometime soon and avoid that burnout.
Appreciate it. It's been fun and looking forward to it.
And then I'll do some sort of outro and
Okay.
we're good. Do you hear that? It's the call of the tavern. If you enjoy this show and want to join a community that supports one another, you should click the link in the description to join the GG Tavern Discord. We're going to be hosting game nights, networking events, and community discussion boards there. It's also the best place to stay up to date with everything going on with GGUP. There's currently a special promotion going on called the Founders Event. The first 100 people who get 5 of their friends to subscribe to the podcast and DM me proof will gain lifetime access to a special role in the Discord server where you can enjoy some of the special perks that will otherwise only be for paid supporters of the channel. Also, the first 500 people to join the server can claim the OG title for eternal bragging rights that you were an early adopter of the show. Come on into the tavern and connect with the community today.